Hey guys, this is Brian from Brian M. Jimenez, and this is part 2 of this series. Today we're going to talk about the content of your website and your theme. So ideally what you want to do is utilize your theme to basically project, right, styling, topography, colors throughout your whole website, so you don't have to manually do it on every single page using Elementor. And I'm going to show you how to basically merge these two together so that you can have a streamlined of styling throughout your whole website. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go over to Elementor and settings. Under settings, you will have disable default colors. Checking this box will disable Elementor's default colors and make Elementor inherit the colors from your theme. We're going to want to check that. And then disable default fonts. Checking this box will disable Elementor's default fonts and make Elementor inherit the fonts from your theme. So why are we doing this, right? We're doing this because what we want to do is not have to style and design every single text and heading, font, color, everything on our Elementor pages is going to be inherited. Not everything, but the main continuous styles, right, are going to be inherited from your theme. So what we're going to do is basically design it and style it in our theme once. And every time we apply that element in our Elementor pages, it's going to reflect what the theme already has styled and the settings that it has been selected to. So it means that every time I make a paragraph, a header, or a button color, right, it's always going to grab it from a theme instead of having to do it basically every single time. Right, so that is where we make sure that both of these are selected or checked, right? And we're going to click Save Changes. Now we're going to go back into our, the first thing we're going to do is, for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to create a new page that will basically explain what I want to do. So for example, this is going to be, I'm going to call this homepage. And the default, the template for this, I'm going to actually use Elementor full width. Yeah. And then I'm going to edit with Elementor. So I'm going to add I'm going to add a few more things actually. The first thing I'm going to add is a heading. And I want to make sure that I do not add any styling to this heading, but add an H1 tag, right? And I'm going to leave it right there. Then I'm going to add another heading, make sure that one is H2. Then I'm going to add a third heading, which is going to be H3. And then I'm going to add a text editor. Make sure this is on paragraph. Yep, perfect. Now I'm going to click Publish. And then I am going to exit to dashboard. Now I'm going to go into my theme customizer by hovering over appearance and then clicking on customize. Perfect. Now what I want to do is I want to assign my homepage to the one I just created. So I'm going to go to homepage settings. I'm going to click a static page, and I'm actually going to click homepage. This is from a previous tutorial, and there we go. Now we have the H1, H2, H3 headings and then paragraph. So when I go back, Elementor has been set to inherit from the theme. So when it comes to content, what I want to do is first we're going to go for topography. And topography is going to be sizing, width, line height, font, styling. So basically all these different elements, right, to where it comes for text content of, or the body of your Elementor pages. So the first thing we want to make sure is that under general we are have a font subset of Latin, unless you are building a website that will require any of these other subsets. This is a little bit advanced, so if you do not know, if you're in America, just leave it at Latin. Then we're going to go for body. Now in our body, right, what we want to have is a font family. And this font family is going to be what the global default, right, is going to assign to. So let's see. So we have two options, right? We can use standard fonts, or we can use Google Fonts. Google Fonts are a lot more common, but they will strain a little bit on performance. Not that big of a deal. Let's do, I really like Montserrat. Okay, let's do, yeah, let's just do this one. Very nice. So now we have assigned the font family, and this is global for everybody essentially. But when it comes to when it says body, it's essentially talking about specifically talking about your paragraphs, right? So I actually want my font to be 16. Okay, so as you notice that, as you can see, as I am making these changes on my theme, the changes are being reflected on my Elementor page, right? Because everything from up here, this is my theme. Everything from down, from in the middle right here is Elementor, and then everything down here, which is my footer, is the theme, right? So that's how things are managed right now. But we're basically merging them together. Therefore, whenever I make an edit on my theme, is going to appear throughout all of my Elementor pages. And that is very important. So I am going to leave my paragraphs at 18, and I actually want them to be black, right? And this is all going to be according to your, right, to your styling and your design. But I want to also add a font weight. Let's make this too thin. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Maybe this was a little bit too big. Let's do 16. Yeah, that's better. Okay, perfect. So I have basically styled body for, you know, or paragraphs. And so every time I add a new paragraph to one of my Elementor pages, it is automatically going to pull up these specific settings for it, or styling. Now, there is an all headings setting, or an H1, H2, H3, and H for heading styling, as you can see down here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go specifically to H1, which is the first heading that we added up here. And since I already assigned a font family, I do not have to assign it again, right? Because under body, which is technically everything, I already have Montserrat assigned, so I don't have to assign it once again, which is great. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do 40. I like that, actually. Yeah, that's good. And basically, this is going to be my H1 headings, which is like my big headings. Any subheadings after that, I definitely want them to be smaller. So H1, and then I'm going to do, this is already 600. Yeah, 700. And for example, I want all my H1 headings to be uppercase. Nice. And it's already font black, which is good. All right, perfect. So that's done. Now I'm gonna do 20 pixels, which is already there for my H2, no, I'm gonna do bigger. H2, if the one was 40, let's do 25 or 30. Yeah, we'll do 30 as an H2 and then 20 as an H3. Yeah. And I actually already like this as it is, so I'm going to leave it default because this matches really well. So basically you have your H1 and then your H2 if you want a big heading and then a subheading. And then for titles and stuff like that, I'm going to go over to H3 and make sure this one is on 20. So basically I got font 40, font 30, 20, and then 16. And I actually like all of these. I'm going to make this bolder. No. 700. Yep. Yeah, I think it's good the way it is right there. Okay, perfect. So now that I basically have assigned all of these, all of these stylings to all of these headings and whatnot, every time I add one, it'll automatically pull that, so I don't have to style them every single time. And also, if for some reason, right, I have, let's say I have 50 pages, 50 Elementor pages, and I decide to no longer be all of my headings going to be capitalized, then I have to go individually to all 50 of my pages and remove the capitalization from all of them, right, or the uppercase from all of them. But through this method, right, I can immediately go into the theme, go to H1 and say you're no longer gonna make it uppercase, and then it'll reflect throughout all of my pages. So I basically just do one step and it's reflected everywhere, which is great. Now, under Topography, you're gonna have a lot more options here, and basically this is where you manage fonts and sizes and all of these things for your whole website. Now, I know that we don't have a lot of content to play with here, but for example, let's say the top bar, right? And on our previous video, we talked about how to set up the top bar and all that stuff, which is this section right here. I can actually make this font bigger or smaller. So for example, let's say I want to make this 15 pixels. I want it to be pretty big right there. I can add that immediately right here and it will reflect. Or for example, my text transformation, I want to make uppercase. I can do that immediately right here. And this is, a few things that you can play with when it comes to typography, which is, for your text. If I go back and I say, I'm going to play around with main menu, right? So my main menu, it's already capitalized right here. So let's say I want it to be actually a little bit bigger. I can play with that right there, which is great. Or for example, my letter spacing, it looks a little bit too spaced out, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, perfect. Or for some reason my menu is actually a little bit more spaced out. This is what we want to go for. Let's do 2.5. Then I can do all this right here and it'll reflect throughout everywhere. So basically, this is where we go every time we need to add styling to anything that is regarding your text. As we continue through the series, we're going to come back to this area, right? Because for example, when we are working on our footer and our footer widgets, we have to come over here and adjust them, right? Or whenever we're working with our sidebar, with our blog posts or our blogs, right? We're going to come back over here. So we're actually going to be coming back to this typography section over and over again as we continue to progress throughout this series. So in this video, what we did was we saw how to add all of this global styling to our headers, our subheaders, even titles and paragraphs, right, throughout our whole Elementor website, right, so that any changes that need to be applied globally, you can add them directly through your theme, right, instead of having to go through each and one of them and adding them or updating them or changing them individually. On our next video, we're going to be talking about our footers and how can we make that global footer just go throughout the whole website, and styling it and basically adding widgets and just all the possibilities with our Ocean WP theme. So if you like this video, please click on that like button and subscribe so you can be notified for the next videos on this series. And I'll see you on the next video.